Welcome back, fans, to another episode of the ECHL Insider. I'm your host, Garrett Hunter, as always, and excited today as we will begin our division previews. Today we'll start with the North Division, but before we get to the North Division, let's talk about some important ECHL news. Our first piece of news is about the North Division. The Wheeling Nailers announced a new head coach, and he is Ryan Papaanu, who brings a lot of pro coaching experience to Wheeling. So really excited to see him get his chance in Wheeling this fall. And finally, big news for the ECHL as the 32nd expansion franchise has been announced, and it is in Augusta, Georgia. So almost surely in the South Division. Really just, you couldn't pick a better location. I mean, it's right between South Carolina, Greenville, Savannah, Atlanta, close to every franchise really in the South Division. Perfect location, and it will be owned by Tim Tebow as well as David Hodges. If those names sound familiar, they are the people who bought the Tahoe Night Monsters a few years back, and Tahoe had a very successful first year on and off the ice. So really excited for Tim Tebow and David Hodges as they continue their partnership and buy a second ECHL franchise that will start play in 2 years. We do have to wait a little bit for this one, the 2027-2028 season. So really excited, but now we know we have all 32. Greensboro will start this fall, New Mexico will start next year, and then now Augusta, Georgia will start the year after that in 2027. So really excited for that. And now all three leagues in North America will have 32 franchises. Really excited for that to happen. Well, let's get right to it now in the North Division. So as you see in front of me, this is the list of the North Division teams and how they finished last year, all the way from first place Trois Rivières to 7th place Adirondack. You don't see Greensboro on there, don't have them a puck yet, but that is coming soon, don't worry. We will start out talking about Greensboro, though. This is obviously a first-year franchise, a lot of excitement right around town, ready to see pro hockey in Greensboro, North Carolina. They already announced Scott Burt, right, as the head coach, former Rapid City coach, and I think he's done a great job already bringing on experienced, talented players in the ECHL. Guys like Logan Nelson and Pat Newell from Tahoe, and guys like Wade Murphy from Idaho. All three of those players have a scoring touch, and they've done it against big-time opponents. So bringing all three of those players alone, big additions to this Greensboro roster. So really excited, and especially when you talk about the two Tahoe players, Murphy and Newell, bringing them from Tahoe, that was a first-year franchise last year. So they kind of know a little bit more than the other players would about what a first-year franchise is like, because they experienced that just last year. So I think those are really good signings for Burt as he gets settled in Greensboro. Well, now we'll talk about the existing franchises in the North Division, starting with last place Adirondack. And, obviously big disappointment when you finish last, but even more for this Adirondack team when the previous season they went all the way to the Eastern Conference Final. I mean, this was an elite team in the ECHL. A lot of people saw the way they were playing in the playoffs, thought they might go all the way, and they got all the way to the conference finals. But then last year really fell apart. Really around New Year's, about halfway through the season, things just really came off the tracks for Adirondack, and it led to some big changes. Obviously, coaching changes. We now have Sylvain Coultier as the head coach in Adirondack, as well as new associate and assistant head coaches. So really excited to see just a breath of fresh air kind of breathed into this locker room. Should be good. Coultier, though, is going to have a big challenge right ahead of him with what this team did last year and trying to be bring them to being a playoff team, right? So I think they have a big task ahead of them, but definitely looking to get back to being that elite team to be at the top of the North Division. And at number 6 last year, the Maine Mariners, they were really out of the playoff conversation for a majority of the season, which was disappointing, but they have a new head coach this year in Rick Kalowski, and still return their assistant coach, which is good. And I think they made a lot of good signings, brought back a lot of players, and adding a lot of new talent into the room. So I think it's a good blend right now in the signings that we've seen so far. Obviously, still some to be made. I think one that stands out is Brad Arvanitis, a goaltender that they're bringing back. Very, very experienced goaltender with the Mariners, and a very talented goalie in this league. So I think Arvanitis is definitely someone who on the ice, just in that, brings you a boost. So I think that was a really good signing for Maine. And at number 5, yes, the Worcester Railers didn't make the playoffs last year. They were eliminated on the last day of the regular season. We talked about that already, so I won't try to remind you too much, Railer fans. I know you guys definitely deserve a break at this point. But yes, it's 6 straight seasons that the Railers have missed the postseason. I mean, so disappointing. That's the longest drought right now in the ECHL. So just trying to get something going, right? Trying to get something going. And they bring back their captain. They bring back a lot of good players from last season's roster. Sign a good handful of players from around the league. A lot of new guys, a lot of young guys from college that they sign as well. So I think it's a good roster though so far. I mean, you look at it just from top to bottom so far, it looks good, but it's got to be, something that shows out on the ice, right? And from Worcester's perspective, you're probably trying to make the playoffs in 71 games, not 72 games, because we know how the last 4 seasons have gone, missing the playoffs on the last day of the regular season. So you don't want it to come down to that, right? You want to be able to have a season where you're confident, you're in good standings, going through months like March and April. And so when you get to mid-April, you already know that you're in the playoffs, right? So that's going to be the goal for Worcester. They want to make the playoffs this year, and I think that they have a roster that can do it if they're able to really put it together, though, on the ice for every game. And at number 4, the Reading Royals, definitely an exciting end of their regular season. They clinched the playoffs over Worcester on the last day of the regular season. And what a celebration that was. That was the only thing they were able to celebrate, though, at the end of the regular season, because they were swept in the first round of the playoffs, 4-0 to Trois-Rivières. We know where Trois-Rivières ended up. We'll talk about them in a second. But Reading, I think you got to be proud of that, though. They were really working hard, big playoff race in the North Division, and they got it, right? They got in. But, coaching changes were still made. They hire Anthony Peters from the Everblades to come in, be the head coach, new assistant coach that Peters brings with him as well. And so just, a breath of fresh air again into this locker room. Another new head coach for the North Division. So I think it'll be interesting to see what roster he is assembling. A lot of good players already on it. Guys like Pat Moynihan from Idaho, Jordan and Jacob Frasca. The brothers joined the team, so I think a lot of good players already. But, for Reading, I think they have high expectations, right? This is a team that's gone to the division finals several times in recent history. They want to get back to deep playoff runs. I mean, this is a town that really expects to be there every year. So they're ready to get back there. They don't want to be on the outside looking in this season. At number 3, the Norfolk Admirals, and they're a team that's been ascending, right, over the last few years from last season getting to the second round, this season getting to the second round again. They're doing really well, I think, and this is a Jeff Carr led group that's really trying to just take the next step this year, and that's get to the Eastern Conference Finals, right? That's not going to be easy in this division, but I think they are a confident group, right? Look at the roster they've signed already. Tons of returning players. A lot of returning talent. Guys like, just to name a few, guys like Brandon Osmondson, Grant Hebert, Josh McDougall, guys who can score and score a lot. I mean, really, really good roster I think they've put together. Expect the Admirals to be at the top of this division this year. Maybe not one, maybe two though. I think they will have a successful season. I think they are hungry for more. I think they're ready to make that next step. And at number 2 was the Wheeling Nailers. They ended the season with some disappointment, right? Obviously, after their regular season, and you go out in the first round 4-1 to Norfolk. And let's remember the schedule of that playoff round, right? It was the first 2 games in Norfolk, and then the remaining 5 in Wheeling. They lost both at Norfolk, and then game 3 at Wheeling, so they were down to 3-0 whole. 1 game 4, and then we're eliminated in game 5. So when you have that schedule, the back 5 games at home, you have to take advantage of that, right? You got to defend home ice. Even if you go down 2-0, people are expecting you to win the series. I mean, you're not going to see that schedule very often, even in the ECHL. And it didn't matter. They were still eliminated 4-1. So obviously nods to Norfolk with how well they played Wheeling, but Wheeling's disappointed from that. Again, they bring in a new head coach. We talked about it at the top of the show. So another breath of fresh air into this locker room as well, after their head coach went to take a job in the AHL. So I think this is another franchise ready to take the next step, right? They want to make a deep playoff run as well. I think that they also have assembled a lot of good players on this roster. Guys like Jackson Castor at the goaltending position was a big re-signing. He's now been with Wheeling 2 years, going into his 3rd season. So I think having a veteran, experienced goaltender in this league is at a premium, and it's important. And I think Wheeling's going to have that in Castor this season, so something definitely to look out for. And at number 1, the Trois-Rivières Lions, the champs of the ECHL. They did what no one else could do, and that was lift the Kelly Cup last season. And Ron Schulz did it right with an all-Canada roster, 24 of 24 players. So really impressive, and people have been wondering this, right? This season now, he's signed 13 players. All 13 are Canadian born. So it looks like he's using the same formula, still 11 more players to get the full roster, but definitely interesting. You know, the only Canada team using all Canadian players. It would be really cool to see if they do that back-to-back years, but it definitely worked last season, right? So we'll see if he can do that. Just a little interesting fact there, but obviously Trois-Rivières, right? So cool to see last season. They take down the 3-time defending champs, the Florida Everblades, and they cruise into the postseason with not a whole lot of momentum, right? Going at the end of the regular season, but they built momentum, right? Sweep of Reading, 4-2 against Norfolk. Obviously momentum, 4-2 against Florida, and then you go to the finals, you lose game 1, and you rip off 4 straight wins against the Toledo Walleye to be named the champs. Just incredible, really. And Trois-Rivières is going to look now to go back-to-back, and that is a very, very hard thing to do in this league, as we've seen. Florida did it several seasons ago. We'll see if Trois-Rivières is able to do it, but definitely impressive from the Lions. So we'll see if they're able to have a successful title defense, but it starts this fall. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode of the ECHL Insider. We'll hope to see you again in 2 weeks for the South Division preview.